What is going on YouTube? Carter here. Got another video for you. This is on the Balaur or Balaur Arms Type E Viking sword. I'm going to just do a brief overview, not an in-depth review, no cutting, nothing like that, but I just want to give you an idea of kind of what you're getting with this sword, where it excels, where it kind of lacks, what the quality is, things like that. Haven't seen a lot of videos on this, particularly going in depth in terms of the quality and what you're getting, things like that. So, Balaur Arms is an Indian manufacturing company that Kult of Athena has partnered with in the past to kind of produce, you know, what I would say is probably the best quality swords you can get in a very inexpensive price, between $200 to $400, around that range. That's kind of what they excel at. At the making of this video, Balaur Arms, as it used to be, as this sword was made, is no longer there, right? So this particular manufacturer, Kult of Athena, has parted ways with them and moved to windlass to produce their Balaur Arms line. But this is a remnant of the old line. A lot of people really like this. There's a lot of debate on which is better, windlass or this. Not a lot of people have the windlass versions yet, so we don't know. But anyways, so this particular sword, I got it because you don't see too many Type E's available, particularly with this really big pommel and end cap. You just don't come across them as much. So before this line completely disappears, I wanted to get this guy. So it's really, for me, it's a wall hanger. It's a good, decent representation of this type of sword that I wanted in my collection. It has these awesome holes right here. They try to pitch this as reducing the weight. There's no way in hell that that's possible. This is not reducing any weight, but it definitely looks cool. So you have brass pommel, end cap, brass guard, and I think a copper chape right here. And then kind of your stereotypical scabbard. The scabbard has a little bit nicer leather than what you'd see on like a Topeka or something, but nothing to write home about. The interesting thing about this sword, and really why I wanted to make this video, is they get a couple things right. So they have a two-piece pommel here. Typically, this sort of sword, you'd have this, and forgive the terminology, I kind of forget what's what, but you have this end pommel right here, and then the tang would actually be peened right here onto this piece, and then this cap would sit over top of it. It would be a hollow cap, and then it would have rivets, and you can actually see the rivets right here and right there that would hold this on, as well as the wire. Now the wire is real, which is really cool. It does have the rivets, however they've ground them so flat you can barely see them, which is odd. Usually if you're using rivets like this, you want them to be pronounced. That's how they were on the originals, and it lets you know you got a two-piece pommel. But the weird thing is, they actually run the peen all the way through the cap. So they completely kind of miss the point of having the cap in the first place by peening all the way through the end. This peen should really be hidden on this piece right here, but they ran it all the way through there. So that's a little disappointing, but still overall looks cool. The other downside to this is it's way too heavy. It's almost 4 pounds. It's ridiculously heavy. Definitely not within the historical range. I believe this type of sword is on the heavier range of Viking era swords, but this one blows that out of the water. You definitely feel it. It is super heavy. Let's take a look here. Got that. Got that. In terms of overall fit and finish, not great. Not terrible, not great. Definitely on the lower end of the Balaurs that I've seen, Balaurs that I've seen, however you want to pronounce it. I'll show you kind of the worst offender of the quality, and that is the gap right there in the guard. So you can see not only is it a huge gap, the blade is crooked within that gap. You can see it does not fit straight. It's over to one side, so it does not line up with the guard angles there, and it is chock full of nasty epoxy. So this is, I mean, especially on this side right there, you can see it's really bad. It's the largest gap I've have on any sword that I've ever purchased. And I've actually cleaned up some of the epoxy. It was worse when I got it. It was kind of up on the blade. I mean, it was just everywhere, super gross. So that's the most disappointing thing about this sword. The weight I can deal with. That's a tricky thing to get right, to make sure and get this to be hollow. Difficult, but the sloppiness of that fit right there is particularly bad. Now, in terms of the blade, it's okay. It's your typical Indian produced Balaur Arms blade. It has a nice overall finish. There is some handling scuffs, I guess you would say, on there. Not a big deal. You can take those out. Everything is mostly uniform. It has some wobbles on it that you can see, which I actually, especially on my Viking era swords, I don't mind. It makes them look more handmade. I don't really want a Viking sword that looks like it was CNC'd by a machine. That's just me. But everything else on it is pretty good. Has the Kult of Athena sharpening job on it, which is fine. Works decently enough. Ideally, it would be cool if we could get these Indian swords sharp from factory, because no matter what, they come with like a 2mm blunt edge due to laws in India. You can't export sharp weapons, sharp swords. So it has a very, very blunt edge. So no matter how you sharpen it, it's always going to be less than ideal blade profile on the edge. It's always going to be a little bit not perfect, but overall I like this. This is one of their more expensive ones. It's around $350, I believe. It would be nice if it was a little bit cheaper, a little bit more accessible. And I guess that's probably the reason why this is still available. The two main drawbacks to this, just to recap, is the ridiculous weight, way too heavy, and then that terrible fit of the blade into the guard. When that just looks so bad. It looks so bad. But other than that, it is a cool example of a Type E Viking era sword. And like I said, you don't really see one as produced like this. There are other Type E's out there, but this is kind of the one that really takes the monstrous pommel and cap and reproduces it here. So that's it, guys. A somewhat quick look at the Balaur Arms Type E Viking sword, in case you were interested in getting one. See ya.